I'm Sergey Brown. Of course, we've got Miss Dawn here.
Good evening, all.
We've got a lot to get through because tonight's episode is Burned: Modern Catastrophe Capitalism. And this is going to be something that I keep an eye on this fire season. Who knew we had fire seasons? It never seemed to be a fire season. I'm 62 years old. When I was young, we didn't have fire seasons. Rarely did we have forest fires. Very rarely. Now, geoengineering, stratospheric aerosol injection, marine cloud brightening, cloud seeding, solar radiation management, and whatever else they decide to drop, it's killing the bacteria in the forests. And so all of that deadfall, all the leaf litter and everything, it simply cannot it cannot decompose. It will not decompose because there's no bacteria left. So that is a huge problem. But what happens when you take that same approach and you move it into a city? Maybe a city that you'd like to turn into a 15-minute city. That is our topic tonight. But before we get on to anything else, I have got to say I watched a little bit of Pam Bondi today, and that was. Let me know what you think of the chat, but I think she was an absolute disgrace, and the cover up. It couldn't be any more obvious. Something serious is going on here, and America's going to pay the price. And hopefully, we get things straightened out and back to a republic before everything collapses. But who knows? For now, we're just going to get on with the episode. So, what if I told you that the blueprint for modern disaster capitalism was written in fire over 150 years ago? That same playbook was used to rebuild Chicago after the Great Fire of 1871. It's being used right now to decide who gets to build in places like Maui or Malibu, the Pacific Palisades, and other planned smart cities locations. The language has changed, yes, but the technology has improved greatly. The mechanics of power, those are still identical. I'm not here to have a discussion as much as I'm here to give you a lens that once you see it, you simply can't unsee it. This is the story of how fire became the single most effective tool for consolidating wealth and control in America. This is modern catastrophe capitalism. Now, this builds on a very touchy subject because so many people have lost their lives because of these fires. And every year, huge swaths of fire consume much of America, and it's going to happen again just in a couple of months from now. So let's be crystal clear who they are. It's not some secret cabal. It's a system. It's the banks, the speculators, the city planners, and the politicians who see a pile of ashes not as a tragedy. Oh no. I mean, look at Karen Bass, but as a blank canvas. They are the villains in this story, and their victims are the displaced, the poor, and the powerless. There we go. I want you to take a look at this. This is Boston in 1871, quite a while ago, 150 years ago, as a matter of fact. These pictures are indicative of what happens and what happens today. I've got some more pictures and stuff to show you tonight, but I just figured I'd start it out with that because the pattern is undeniable. Look at the picture of Boston in 1871. The fire kills 13 people, but displaces thousands. The immediate response? Masonry rebuild standards. Suddenly, if you can't afford to build with expensive brick and stone, you're out completely. You've lost everything you've worked for. That's a problem that we're seeing come back around. Not brick and stone, but there are other mandates. The working class back then was priced out of their own city before the smoke even cleared. And they called that progress. Remember how the establishment mocks the people who question building back better? Well, it's for good reason. Tonight, we're the ones holding the receipts from 150 years of progress. We're showing you that every time a city burns, a small group of people get very rich, and the rest of us get permanently displaced. They're not rebuilding cities, they are re engineering them. Smart cities, they say. That is a huge problem because when you start taking a look at what actually happens in a smart city, it starts to look a lot more like a prison. So let's walk through their fire based playbook step by step. I'll use their own history as the evidence. Rule number one, let the shock of the blank slate, the shock of the blank state. There we go. I don't know how I
Learning
can't
to read 101.
A fire is the ultimate reset button. Property records vanish. Now, you got to remember, if there's no record of something, it didn't exist. And we have seen this with the January 6th Commission. They've destroyed records. We've seen this with the Trump files. All the Trump files have essentially the Trump collusion. All those files have been destroyed. We've seen this in other cases where city halls have burnt down and people have lost family farms because they couldn't prove that they owned them. And then big money comes in, like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and George Soros buying up all that property. Normal governance is suspended. This is the moment for maximum vulnerability. From the Great Seattle Fire of 1889 to the 2025 Pacific Palisades Fire, the first move is always the same. Use the chaos to bypass all consent. Rule number two, the safety trap. This is how they sell it. They introduce new, stricter building codes in the name of preventing the next tragedy. Oh my goodness. We've got to protect you. And then what they do is take everything away from you. After the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, they imposed fire limits. After the Oakland Hills firestorm in 1991, it was a wave of fire safety reforms. It sounds logical, but the real effect is a massive filter. If you're undercapitalized, you cannot comply. If you don't rebuild, you have to sell. If you don't sell, you're still paying taxes on not just bare property now. You're paying taxes on the home that used to be on that property. That's how they value it. So, yeah, sure, you have to spend some time living away from your home. That's going to cost money. And it's going to cost money that most people don't have. And that's what they count on. Take today's example. In California, after the 2025 Palisades and Malibu fires, rebuilding must meet current wildfire-resistant codes, like ignition-resistant cladding and defensible space, which can add $18,000 to $20,000 in costs per home, even with streamlining, like Executive Order N4-25, suspending some environmental reviews for like rebuilds. Up to 110% of the original size, these upgrades price out ordinary homeowners with limited insurance payouts. In Lahaina, Maui, after the 2023 fires, structures must now comply with modern safety standards, even with waivers from non-conforming pre-fire buildings. This adds great burden that so many simply cannot afford. Oprah Winfrey, though, she can afford it. I just saw that she was buying an extra 1,100 acres over there. I can't believe her good luck. And I bet you anything, she gives it right back to the very people that she stole them from. Remember, babe, she would not let people drive through her property to get away from the fire. They created a kill box, a kill zone there.
I know, it's mind-boggling. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got my big kahuna glass there, and I think everybody else can hear you too.
Oh, okay.
So rule number 3, centralize the power grab. When the rules get complex, they create new authority to enforce them. Look at Baltimore in 1904. After their fire, They created the Burnt District Commission, a centralized planning authority with godlike powers to redesign the city. Today, it's Resilient Task Force, the Recovery Czars. Their name changes, the power grab is exactly the same. They sideline local voices when they matter the most. In Los Angeles, Mayor Bass's Emergency Executive Order Number 8, EO8, waives some Coastal Act reviews for single-family homes, but only if they meet strict zoning and environmental protections. I've heard that some of what they're wanting people to do is build bases for their homes that cost upwards of $500,000. So these strict zoning and environmental protections centralizing decisions that still delay permits with fewer than 10% approved months or even years after the 2025 fires. In Maui, Ordinance 5780 gives a rebuild window until 2029, but requires proving pre-fire legal status through documentation, often lost in the fire, handing power to bureaucrats. That's right. If you don't have the paperwork, they're not going to give it to you. What's going to happen is they're going to do exactly what happened back in 1871 Chicago. They're going to say, no, all the records burnt. The City Hall burnt down. If you can't prove that you own the land that we all know you've lived on, your family's lived on for the last 200 years, it's not yours anymore. And then we have the right to give it to our friend here, Mr. Builder, Mr. Smart City, contractor. And then all of a sudden they have very free property. It hands that power right to those people. Take a look at what a smart city is.
A city where everything you need is no more than 15 minutes away? It sounds like a dream. Professor Carlos Moreno came up with this concept in 2016, and cities like Paris, Rome, Utrecht, Singapore, and Melbourne are already implementing his idea. Carlos Moreno's vision for a 15-minute city is simple. Residents should be able to access all necessary amenities, such as work, education, healthcare, and recreation in less than 15 minutes by walking, cycling, or using other modes of non-motorized transport. In addition to the proximity of basic amenities, various major planning principles need to be applied to create a 15-minute city. For example, residents should be able to move around freely and safely. Streets must be pleasant and easy to use for pedestrians and cyclists, regardless of their individual capabilities, age, or gender. Public participation is crucial to success,
It is.
fostering acceptance and use. Population and employment density supports the existence of local businesses and service. Proximity to public transport enables residents to reach their destination without having to rely on a car. Residents should also have a diverse range of services in their neighborhoods that meet their everyday needs. These features shouldn't be limited to just one neighborhood, but should be applied in phases throughout the city, starting with street experimentation, so that every resident can reap the benefits. 15-minute cities are a complex and fascinating concept. We've made a free online course on the topic. Enjoy.
So there you go. That explains it in just how wonderful it really is. It's not wonderful at all. And that's the problem right there, is that you have all of these horrific people selling you this idea of what a 15-minute city is going to be, how amazing it is. And yet we don't have any real idea what kind of prison it is. Now, people are saying you're going to be tracked. You're going to get, like a leave, like a military leave, that you can actually leave the city limits for X amount of days per year. You'll have to apply to have a car. You'll have to apply for this or that. And I guarantee you, once that prison door is slammed shut, you and your family don't get out. And if they want to starve you out, they'll starve you out. If they want to pick the winners and losers, that's what they're going to do. So rule number 4, the land heist. This is the end game. With new codes and centralized power, they consolidate land. The most chilling example, of course, is the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1921. It wasn't just a race riot. It was a land grab. After the prosperous black district of Greenwood was destroyed, they used zoning and bureaucratic obstruction to actively prevent rebuilding. If it can happen to a minority, I guarantee you it's going to happen to everybody. They don't care who it is. They don't care if you're white or black. They don't care if you're East Indian or American Indian. They don't care. What they care about is feeding the monstrous government machine and doling out winners and losers to their favorite NGOs or investment partners or the person that really supports their reelection campaign. It wasn't about safety in 1921. It was about theft. We see echoes of this in Paradise, California, after the 2018 Camp Fire. Many residents couldn't afford new resilient codes and left permanently, paving the way for outside buyers. Fast forward to now. In the Pacific Palisades in Malibu, geotechnical testing, slow inspections, and high costs from fire-resistant requirements mean many sell out due to insurance gaps and delays, despite federal proposals to speed things up. In Lahaina, historic districts rule out limit heights up to 35 feet, and the burden of proving legal status slows rebuilds, forcing sales to developers who can navigate all that mountain of red tape. And this pattern isn't confined to North America. Look south to Patagonia, Argentina, a sparsely populated, resource-rich area at the southern tip of South America. It's now on fire. Over recent weeks, in early 2026, fires have charred tens of thousands of hectares. Reports range from 36,000 to over 500,000 or 50,000 hectares of native forest, grasslands, and communities in the Chubut province, including parts of Los Alcatraz and National Park. Thousands of residents and tourists, around 3,000, have been evacuated. They're forced out. Habitat destroyed. Land devalued for subsistent locals who live off of that land. One major challenge, firefighters are reporting arriving to find equipment sabotaged or limited by massive altruistic cuts from President Milei, slashing fire management budgets up to 70 and 80%, leaving teams understaffed and, of course, undergeared. Some fires confirmed as intentional arson amid the chaos. Conspiracy theories, of course, swirl, blaming the Israeli tourists, or settlers, as they like to call themselves, for starting fires to enable land grabs, reviving old Andalusian plans. Narratives about foreign acquisition. I just happen to have a little video about this.
Are Israeli settlers burning down land to take it over in the Americas? Patagonia, Argentina is a sparsely populated, resource-rich area at the southern tip of South America, and it's on fire. Over 37,000 acres have been charred just this week. About 3,000 local residents and tourists have been evacuated. Habitat has been destroyed. Land has been rendered almost worthless for the people who live subsistence lives off of that very land. One of the major challenges in putting out these fires is that when the firefighters arrive, the equipment is often sabotaged.
Yes, that equipment is often sabotaged, and we know that the Israelis have revived that old plan to allow foreign acquisition of that land only if a fire happened on it. That's the problem right there, is they're now burning it down using the same playbook as they did 150 years ago. They being the government, anybody who wants to take your land and has the money to do it. Now, why many claims lack evidence and have been debunked as, well, called, I should say, anti-Semitic disinformation by some Snopes fact checkers and officials, the core question remains: who benefits when protected lands burn and foreigners gain easy access. New laws are erasing foreign land buys. Port disasters make the playbook very, very global. So this is who is buying the land. Yep. We've got all of these wonderful billionaires out there buying up land. And that should make you very nervous. Rule number 5. Now, I have got a notice that has popped up that X is having a problem and no notification has gone out. So people don't even know we're live. Babe.
Okay, I'm sitting here going, there's nobody on. And
Yeah.
we have people on, like, chat's dead, everything's dead.
Isn't it odd that every time we use X, and that's why if you're listening, if you're one of the lucky few that got the notice, or you just happened onto us, go to my Substack and join there. You'll see it right down here.
Yeah.
There we go.
We're trying to build the Substack, so
Because
time to leave X.
yeah, absolutely. X has really put the jackbooted thug right on our throats, and they completely limit us every time we broadcast or even try to broadcast.
Yeah, I'm shocked that there's only like
Yeah.
a handful right now.
But you know what? Fantastic. It's great information. And guys, mention in the chat, say hello. We'd like to know that you're at least breathing over there on the other side.
Well, Lucille B is here. And she says,
Lucille, how are you tonight?
and on Substack, we have someone who joined. I don't know if it's name, but it's INCS.
Okay, perfect.
So at least there's 2 people in the chat. So
Inks.
Ink.
Yep,
Inks.
Inks. Well, thank you very much for holding it down over there on Substack.
And Lucille says, yes, great info. So let's keep charging forward,
Well,
Mr.
I
Brown.
don't see why it wouldn't. I've got all this, and it might be a rather short show tonight. So we'll just see. Now, rule number 5. This is the narrative upgrade. This is the final crucial step in the 1800s. The story was simple. I'll get back because that's a real simple card right there. The fire was tragic, but it made the city stronger. That's the talking line. That's what they said. After the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fire, they debated city beautiful redesign. Today, the language is resilience, sustainability, and smart city infrastructure.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
It'll be
Isn't
better.
that something,
It's
huh?
gonna be better
Yeah.
for you. You won't be able to live there, but
Yeah, no. Yeah. And if you do, you got to get a pass. You got 15 days out of the city or you're allowed to go here or there. But other than that, you got to buy our human grade lab made food.
yummy.
So today's language, yes, it is all glossed up exactly like it used to be in Lahaina. A fight over land use and community land trusts is happening. Anyone who questions the top-down plan is labeled anti-safety or anti-progress or anti-Semite in many cases. The debate ends before it begins. In Patagonia, blame shifts to scapegoats like indigenous people or foreigners who austerity weakens response. Same upgrade, new content. So now the layer is the modern twist. Today, geoengineering can dry out regions, making prime cities and towns tinderboxes with a small group of arsonists, directed energy weapons like DEWs. You can pretty much pick what real estate you want to torch. And then once you do that, and isn't it funny, babe, when this happens, everything blue, and the trees, right, they're not targeting the trees. The directed energy weapons or DEWs. If you
People
guys
with blue roofs, you mean?
yeah, with blue roofs, blue cars,
Yeah.
they
Don't burn.
exactly the blue this or blue that. Even tents don't burn because blue when you hit it with the laser evidently doesn't burn.
I saw somewhere in China or Asia or something. I can't remember where it was. but
China, yeah.
They were putting blue roofs up everywhere.
China's worried. China's very worried about that. As well, they should be. Because all of a sudden you have a government power with weapons that literally 10 years ago would have been, Star Trek and Star Wars
Right.
type of science fiction that we have. Edward Snowden said it, 15 years ago? That we have technology that's 300 years ahead of where we are today, what we believe we have today. So yeah, there's a lot coming down the pike. I'll tell you that, and I think it's worrisome for a lot of people because if you don't have the ability to fight back, what are you going to do? So the time to fight is now. I'll tell you that. There right now in Idaho, the government is trying to say that you need to claim every bit of water. If you've got 3 ponds on their property, you got to claim that. If you don't,
What?
if you don't claim it, let me see if I can find that and play that because
I thought Idaho was supposed to be the land of the free.
no, it's I mean, we've had so many horrible people come in here. Okay, let's let me take a look at this because you'll find this very interesting.
On their property, if you drilled your well some time ago and have not registered your well, if you have a natural stream on your property, pond, year-round creek, a lake, all of that stuff, this applies to you. Essentially what is taking place is the state of Idaho is saying that you have X amount of time to file for your water rights of all of those different bodies of water. If you have 9 ponds on your property, you're going to have to register your 9 ponds. Now, if you do not file for your 9 ponds, your wells, whatever your water rights are, whatever your water sources are, the state of Idaho owns them. Foreverdom. They are now resources, they are now property of the state of Idaho. So if you have a homestead that's been in the family for 100 years and you have natural wells or natural springs that you guys use to water your animals or irrigate your land, the state of Idaho is saying that that is now their property if you don't claim it in time. Now, we've seen this before, guys, in other states across the nation. This is the beginning steps of a land resource grab. This is the beginning of government control of a massive amount of resources. In this case, the state of Idaho that has, especially in the north, a ton of water. You can almost go into any mountain ravine and find water flowing through. It's kind of hard to die of thirst in the state of Idaho.
People's property.
Yeah. So
it's not a river, it's ponds.
no, it's any water source.
That's ridiculous.
Yep, streams. He said. I think he said in there streams, rivers,
No.
wells, springs, ponds, lakes, whatever you have. If you don't claim it by a certain point, and this is the first I've heard about it. Right? It's not common knowledge, and they're putting a clock on it. And so, if you do not claim it, then you lose it. So we have seen the theories around California fires, Maui, and even Patagonia. Claims of engineered drought, selective burns, and land grabs. Official sources blamed climate change and negligence. But the pattern fits. Dry the land, spark the fire, clear the way for consolidation. Once these ashes settle, the same players move in. That is a huge issue. This is what we're talking about. We're not just talking about, tiny little fires. We're talking about huge, entire areas, metropolitan areas that are being burnt to the ground. Now, these are just a couple examples on your screen right there. But it's so unfortunate that we allow this. And you'll see how these people have worked so hard, especially in Lahaina, right? They're not rich people that are living there. They're like you and me, everyday average people, and they get burnt out of their property. I find it reprehensible. That's what I find it. So let's make this real. Look at the evidence. Boston, Chicago, Seattle, Baltimore, San Francisco, Tulsa, Oakland, Paradise, Pacific Palisades, Lahaina, and now Patagonia burning in 2026. The playbook is absolutely flawless. I mean, when you look at it, it's almost genius because it's worked for the last 150 years. And it's going global. We've seen fires now ravaging. I think there's a fire burning today, as a matter of fact. Who here lives in a city that has fire codes or zoning laws that feel impossibly expensive? Who here has seen disasters in their town followed by a wave of outside developers rushing in? That's not coincidence. That is the playbook in action in the Palisades, even in the CEQA suspensions and like allowances. Environmental testing codes and code compliance bury homeowners in costs and delays. In Lahaina, waivers exist, but historic rules and proof burdens, well, it really burdens the people that own the property because they don't have access to what burnt up in the fire. They can't prove that the property was theirs. In Patagonia, sabotage reports and budget cuts make fighting back very hard, while land becomes cheap for those waiting. The government, the politicians, and the politically connected, the uber wealthy, and the elites all want you to feel powerless. They want you to accept that this is just how things work. But what if your community demanded that after a fire, the first priority wasn't new codes, but guaranteeing that every original resident could afford to return? What if you made that non-negotiable starting point? You'd be hijacking their entire frame. You'd turn their safety argument back on them. And I think that's what needs to happen. So if you have property in a town that is slated to become the next smart city or 15-minute city, or you have a big developer that really wants your area. I mean, look at what happened in North Carolina. It just so happens that shortly after the entire community said, hell no, you're not opening that lithium mine and destroying our groundwater, a suspicious hurricane, Hurricane Helene, moved out of the Gulf up into North Carolina. It's never happened before, ever. We've never seen that happen before. Now, the Doppler radars were going off like crazy, but of course, those don't do anything. You can't guide a storm with magnetic fields. But it sat there and rained and rained and rained. Now, I know I'm talking fires tonight, and that's a flood, but it's the same principle. Create a disaster, put impossible rules in place so we protect you, the people. You just can't afford the protection, and now you've got to move on because we've got a mine to open. That is what's happening. And if we don't fight back now, then we are done for. So let's lock it in. Your toolkit for seeing through the smoke is this 5-step pattern: shock, safety, power, heist, narrative. See it, name it, and expose it. The game is absolutely rigged, but you know how it's been rigged for over a century. So we'll start spreading the news. That knowledge is a weapon. Don't let them take your land from you. Here's your mission this week. Find the disaster recovery plan or the building code update for your city or county, or look into foreign land ownership rules in vulnerable areas like is happening over in Patagonia. Read it. Ask one simple question. Who does this rule really benefit? And who does it price out? Then post your question online. Tag me at Sergey L. Brown right here on X. Or more importantly, go tag me over on Substack because X doesn't seem to like us very much. I've got other things to play, but evidently my audio is not working. So,
Well, try one and see if they. I mean, that was one.
no, it's the same thing, babe.
Oh, okay.
So I gotta figure out why it's not working. But I'll tell you this: everything else seems to work just fine. So, with all of that said, I am going to cut this just a little bit short tonight. Thank you, everybody. If you guys could let at least one person know, if you like the show, just say, hey, you know what? Why don't you watch this guy Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Substack. Point everybody to Substack. We don't ever seem to have a problem with Substack. Always have a problem with X. So
well, people are still living on Substacks.
yeah, which I think is absolutely fantastic, guys. Thank you for listening over there. I'm calling it a night for all of us. I'm Sergey Brown.
And I'm Dawn.
We'll see you next time.